Likely story, sir.
Although, pro illegal immigrant tip: don't get on social media. We have a. I probably should have put this in security, but I saw FBI and NSA, and my mind just sorted it here.
That's fine.
We have a new kind of malware, and you know that it's the.
Pro tip: if you're trying to attract women or like just be better about being around women, don't be that way. Don't be that way.
I'm gonna try this pink shit.
Oh yeah, it's very strawberry.
Oh, that's candy. Mm-hmm. That's bad news.
That's great.
It's delicious, but
That's it. Yeah, it infect you, and it was very tragic.
no, there are so many. Here's a pro tip. If you just made the Futurama comment, you're that person. Don't be that person. People don't like you.
Rip the people that paused the video to make the comment.
That's probably already like 3 people who's done that.
Well, here at the Level 1 News, when we prep these articles, we see a lot of,
Entirely.
pro criminal tip. If you happen to live in this community or within walking distance of it, and you're addicted to methamphetamine, just imagine the scrap that's just waiting for you inside that blue wall right there. So much.
Could be yours.
And nobody. They didn't say they were stealing. They said they were not acting honestly.
I don't have it. I don't know. What are you talking about?
So pro criminal tip, if you're an Amazon driver, don't steal packages right now. And Walmart. Now this is certainly a dystopian. Get so many calls to consolidate your debt if you're on this list.
No, pro criminal tip. You can call them and impersonate the bank, and like most people, it's like, hey, I'm calling from blah 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 lending institution, and all your account information they can verify. I mean, those individuals won't know that it's not really the bank, and it's like, I'm going to need you to send payment to this other address because we've sold your loan, and it's like, okay, sounds good. Pro tip: don't install apps on your phone.
Pro tip: hot teenage girls who contact you are never hot teenage girls.
What if they are? They're just not in my area.
No, still not. Still not. So moving on to social media, we have talked a lot about
Pro tip:
when you're out with your girl tonight, be like, girl, you want to try some Komodo dragon style tonight?
And then when she says no, you just tear up the pork in the fridge.
Stop by Lowe's on the way home and get one of those like gardening trowels with the individual claws.
Oh.
So when they build
Called an ambulance. My mom woke up. She had passed out at her desk. She woke up. She's like, "Why'd you call an ambulance?"
yeah,
She's like, "I have to pay for that now." She's fine. But
Pro tip: if
years
you're in like a car accident, or even if you witness a car accident, and an EMT comes up and is like, "Hey, bro, just let me check you out real quick, just to make sure. We just want to be safe."
it's like, no, son.
Say no to that. Say no, and pull your camera out, and it's like, I'm saying no to you, ambulance man. $12 ticket. They're like, I'm not going to make any waves. Pro tip: if this happens to you, just fight them. Just start swinging.
Just pull your shirt off.
I think the doctor
Might
got
be
what he got
IRL,
because he didn't defend himself, and they just punched the crap out of him until he was unconscious.
Yeah, well, he wouldn't get up.
Yeah.
So I think he just sort of that's the cops call that resisting without. So pro tip: if you're dumb enough to put your photography on social media, just take the 50, because you got no rights, and you don't deserve them, because you're using social media.
Or watermark the crap out of what you put on social media.
Or can you edit Instagram posts after the fact? It's contraband. He should have. Pro criminal tip: you have the right to remain silent.
I thought that you could mail them that kind of thing through the mail.
No, they read their mail. There is no. That's one of the big. If you watch the prison documentaries, and they'll interview them, and they're like, your friends or anyone,
Really?
for
Yeah.
that matter.
Pro life tip.
Yeah.
Pro not stupidity tip. I don't know.
But there's one where a little girl throws it on her brother who's got his back to her, and there's another one where a guy pours it on himself.
Oh.
Yeah. I don't know.
Vladivostok or
Here's a
something.
pro criminal. Actually, just pro business tip, chat. Always get 50% up front.
But see, that's the reason. So
Service is rendered.
that's the reason that he's able to do what he wants with it, because the law says that after a certain amount of time, unclaimed repair stuff becomes your property.
I'm not sure if that would apply to an image though. If the FBI had
A pro criminal tip and not just a yeah.
Pro state actor tip.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know, like what are criminals going to find at the like the shutdown Department of like Veterans Affairs or whatever? I don't.
Oh, they'll find plenty of
the
corruption.
national park data.
A lot of wasted money. A lot of covered up suicides, probably. That's a dark place.
Here's a pro student tip. Is that what we're doing? A pro student tip? I don't know. Student loans are unlike other loans in that they survive bankruptcy. So in terms of like the whole life lesson thing, that is a really, really tough life lesson to learn, because it's like, if I get it over my head, I'll just file for bankruptcy. Guess what? Student loans.
Hyper while you storm it. It's fine.
There you go.
Just keep moving.
Pro
Tip. Pro Area 51 storming tip.
It'll be like exclusion zones, though. It'll be like, the brown note zone, and then like the beanbag zone, and then probably like the water hose zone, and then like the salt-filled shotgun zone, and then the bullet zone.
They're probably super excited about using their less than lethal. Like pro gun owner tip. When you carry a gun, you instantly lose every argument. You have to be willing to eat other people's crap, because if you pull that gun, you get it's a terrible thing that will happen to you after that, even if you're in the right. So another situation where I would advise talking about, and here's a pro tip if you're a government leader, right? And you're sitting there and it's like, are we the bad guys?
Are we the baddies?
Here's one thing that you can use as a litmus test, to let you know. If Mark Zuckerberg comes up with a plan and you say to yourself, oh, we should do that, you're the bad guy.
China's cryptocurrency plan has a powerful...
Also, terrible time to have an outdoor wedding. Pro tip. If you're thinking about doing that, I wouldn't. It's unpleasant.
Especially not facing the sun. Maybe facing away from the sun would be a good idea.
I'm sure that's good for the photography. Well, let's talk about everybody's favorite way to start the 11-1 news. It's a tradition, Mr. Ajit Pai.
Uh-oh. Ajit Pai has lost the encrypted data.
Also, if I was pro criminal tip, using Facebook to communicate about your crimes, terrible idea. Terrible idea. You do not want any sort of criminal activity on any of Facebook's networks ever.
Well, I actually...
Enough. And they have a new program to suck even more data from you. Here is a pro tip. The value that they're offering here is really low. Really low.
Amazon launches a program to pay consumers for data on their non-Amazon purchases. You take 10 pictures of receipts that are not Amazon or Amazon-owned affiliates like Whole Foods. They'll give you $10.
You notice, like, you start with good news. You always want to end. This is a pro tip. If you want to do like a news YouTube show like this, you want to end on something that's kind of titillating, People will be like, "Ooh, that's a little risque, right?" So if you can talk about porn as the last story, you'd want to. And this is about a civil servant who watched porn at work. Respect to him, because I think he did a very bad thing. I think he paid for it. Unfortunately, so did the bulldog. So, just pro tip, if you're out there and thinking to yourself, it's been a long time, maybe head down to the corner store, pick up some Jif, and spread some around, get a local straight. No.
Watch one show and then canceling.
Pro tip. Gift cards. Only ever do business with Netflix through gift cards. And if you forget, doesn't matter. I canceled my Netflix and I have not missed it at all.
Yeah, Netflix seems like a thing that you would sign up for like 3 months of the year, and then watch everything you want to watch, and then move on to some other service for 3.
Driver might have been the one who kept a device. Here's your pro criminal tip. I think we've actually given this one before. If you're going to go do crime, do not take your phone.
You don't need it. It's fine.
What if you get lost?
Just deal with it. It's better.
Use an atlas.
It does seem a bit like overreach. I mean, because... Now, I don't know. It's not criminal pro tip. Some kind of pro tip. I don't know. On Android, go in the developer menu and disable animations. and then marvel at how much faster your phone seems. It's like, wow, it's like I've got a totally new phone because everything is not animated.
It's like playing StarCraft with all the details turned down, except it's real life. She's going to be sending you a
hot
link.
singles in your area.
Or no, she's going to be like, hey, I just got out of the shower. Here's a link. And then it's like, oh. It's a pro tip, don't click on that. Well, how about some Arctic drones? No, that's not the hot new band. It's actual Arctic drones.
This is from Defense One, so maybe it's serious, but Russia's got new Arctic drones that are built to spot ships.
Police officer showed up at your door.
Well, here's a pro hot girl tip. Now, I don't usually give these, but this might be the only one ever. When you're going to go to the airport, don't put on makeup. So that way, when your face goes into the facial recognition database, the police stalkers will just pass on by. They'll swipe left.
Do people wear makeup to the
Oh. But if you are an anti-masker, so pro tip, you don't want to use your urine as a weapon. But there are other, much more passive ways that you can fight against the tyranny of the mask.
Anti-mask protesters' new weapon, wearing masks that offer no protection from the thing at all. So they're mesh, yarn, and lace.
Also, pro tip, pro everybody tip. If a cop says, "Can I come inside and look around?" the answer is never yes. I don't care if there is someone like under your bed with a gun. Just still say no.
Take care of it yourself.
Yeah.
It's going to be a better result every time.
And don't do that. Don't do that. Or if you do that, clean it up before you call the cops. Also, pro tip: turn all the lights on after you shoot somebody in your home, because if the lights are off, they'll make the argument that you didn't know who you were shooting. Facial recognition, it's everywhere, and it's wrong, and it's a barrier to entry now.
Pro tip: it's actually hard anyway, because like no one cares about what you ate.
The comment section was great on this story.
Yes.
Because people, the average Joe hates influencers. And every comment is like, get a job.
My favorite comment was some really shoddy police work. So
yeah. So pro arson tip: go and actually buy a physical map. Don't Google it.
But couldn't you just go to Amazon and be like, we need to know who bought a physical map of the area between blocks?
No, go to a gas station, pay cash, do it a town over. Come on.
You can't pay cash anymore. You have to use the digital digital yuan. What are you doing?
Yeah, pro tip: if you're a young stalker, it never works like you expect it to. There are no success cases there. Everybody's wearing masks. And that's just, it seems like that's going to be the new normal for quite some time. Even if this clears up, I think there's going to be the pro tip: if you're parked next to a cop, just keep your hand on the wheel and stare forward. I don't care if you look suspicious, just do it anyway. But that's not what she did. She looked at her watch, and she looked at it 4 times, according to the cop. And the cop, the real damning thing here is braking was bad. Here's a pro tip: B-R-A-K-E, brake. That signifies stopping, applying a kinetic force to slow down or stop a mechanical system. B-R-E-A-K, brake, means to, separate or...
It goes...
If you're going to... Pro criminal tip. Get this stuff in advance, but if it's too late and you don't have it yet, you definitely want to go to different locations. And for the love of God, don't use your credit card. Although, since you can't use cash now, that might be difficult, right?
No, you use your debit card. Or I guess you have to use your debit card. So you can get one like a Visa gift card. And just,
And let me just give you a pro job search tip. If during the interview, someone sends you an executable file, that's a red flag.
North Korean hijackers infiltrate Chile's ATM network after Skype job interview. So a Red Bank employee applied for a LinkedIn job and got a call from the world's...
They wanted it so much, they were willing to pay a lot for that. Pro executive tip: that's not legal.
Former Uber executive charged with paying hush money to conceal massive breach. This is on NPR. So yeah, that thing that we commented on. Turns out the FBI was investigating that. It took them a little while to put everything together, but they did arrest the guy. And even though the executive team, he says the executive team
Close to your.
Pro tip, that's not a good smell.
But in the fanfic, she loves it, and she's like, "Let's get married."
Oh, your musk is intoxicating.
And then she writes a song called "Intoxicating."
Well, I included this last story, of course, thinking about Rue the dog.
Who does?
There have been several cases of that. So, political dissidents. It's like pro-political dissident tip. Don't drive a smart car.
If your credit score goes below a certain threshold, your car will not
social
operate. Yeah.
Well, how amazing would that be? I mean, how dystopian is that? You get in your car and your car berates you for 5 minutes about being a terrible human being
I'm
before
sorry,
it
I
lets you
can't
drive
do
to
that.
work.
You'll tweet an apology right now, or you're not going to the store.
Ryan, you knew what it was.
Yes, I did know what it was. And here's a pro tip, a pro Twitter tip, Krista. Don't do any tweeting when you take that tour of the fudge packing factory.
I have heard that term. I had never heard the other though.
So,
That's enough of that.
well, we have a little bit more about this story. So this guy was going to get his face on the can. So yeah, pro Amazon driver tip: don't do your unionization talk on social media because they're not going to stop. They say they're going to stop, they're not going to stop.
If they're doing that, they're probably into the Alexa as well. It's like,
But I mean, you go first. You go first.
No, it's just like, how crazy is it that a letter negotiation position? Pro billionaire tip: don't write that down and put that in because that's illegal.
So this was the ruling that not only did they have to stop charging the licensing fees, which were, onerous, they had to go back to the table with all of their customers and read
The ground, we don't know. He's been arrested, so
Here's another pro criminal tip. If you're selling vape pods to teens, don't bring a gun.
Well, listen, you got to protect your supply, right?
That's a felony. You're going away for a long time. Yeah, these kids try to run away with the THC vapes, and he was waiting for her when she got home and assaulted her.
So pro tip: don't do that if you're into those kind of things.
I don't know how
Posting
you,
on social media.
Maybe
you
just send him like a tweet, and it's like, "Hey, I really enjoy your work," and then just leave it at that.
Oh no, you're talking about the girl, right?
Yeah.
And the other thing is, I think this guy had tried to make contact with her, and she went to the authorities, and they were like, "Don't worry about it."
A 1 terabyte micro SD card up for pre-order now for a staggering $450. Pro tip: don't buy it because when the 256 gig one came out and it was like $200, I was like, that's a good deal. Now it's like $40.
How many modern devices are actually going to support a terabyte though?
A lot of them, actually. Surprisingly, there's I think a 2 terabyte limit for something through these hoops, and we keep it quiet.
Pro tip: that requires JavaScript.
Oh, yeah.
It is a pain in the ass
I usually read on my phone, and so it's just like,
because there's like 3 major tech websites that we use regularly that simply render nothing without JavaScript, and then there's like 3 that use pop-ups that require JavaScript.
Greetings from Hacker Giraffe. Well, hello, Hacker Giraffe. How are you?
Now, pro tip: I wouldn't click on that link.
Yeah, I was gonna say that would be even more suspicious.
Although it does seem like these guys are doing a service and just having some fun with it, but also trying to get some subscribers.
Age with a valid ID or credit card. This is the thing that literally failed.
Now I'll give you a pro tip, children. They're saying that they're going to fix this, but so far, if you search for the video title on DuckDuckGo and go to the video tab, the privacy player in DuckDuckGo will play age-restricted videos. It won't add.
And his cell phone location data and all of that stuff. I mean, that would just...
You think a lot of New Orleans gangbangers have Apple Watches?
A lot.
Pro tip: if you're a New Orleans gangbanger, don't have an Apple Watch.
Would you like superhuman memory? This is a really interesting application of artificial intelligence. So AI, the headline is AI.
Hey, after go in the so if you have to go, pro tip, go late in the afternoon on Friday because all the crazy people are already gone, and you can just get whatever they've picked over. You might not get like the stuff in the flyer, but there's still some good deals.
Stink on. See, the thing is, I don't close on the house till that Monday. So, do you prematurely buy furniture? That's a gamble.
It takes like a week at least to get there.
Yeah, but what if something goes wrong? It won't work either. If you're gonna, pro criminal tip, if you have Apple components that you've stolen, drive them to an undisclosed location, strip them for parts, and only keep the parts that you recognize that don't have a tracker in it. Like, definitely not the wireless parts.
I mean, the parts are still probably worth a couple $100. I mean, that's pretty good.
Yeah.
Here's a pro tip, like a pro fire management tip, I guess, is when you have a lithium-ion battery that bursts into flames, you can only really put it out with sand.
Where did he get a fire extinguisher?
Yeah, a fire extinguisher is not
Is
really
that
going
what
to
he
help
has
you.
in his hand?
I must. I mean, it seems like
It kind of looks like he's holding a newspaper, like he's fanning the flames, like, yes, burn.
You have to... Well, if you're pro New Zealander tip, if you're going to call the microbiologists that they didn't win, tell them there's always next year.
But there might not be. That's the great thing about it. There's every possibility there won't be a next year. There will be for the cat.
In fact, interact with it in some way.
Unfortunate, but yeah.
Web design pro tip, your analytics scripts are interfering with your on-page JavaScript.
Oh, you know what? True. You know what? There's we can go directly to the
it's loading. Baby pod.
Music is life.
No, ball is life.
Oh. That's unpleasant.
That picture is
this website is terrible.
Ooh,
yeah. You were past the lock in less than a day. So keep that in mind. Don't take your phone. Okay, here's just a pro tip. If you're going to rob somebody or you're going to commit a crime of any kind, or if you're going to go to a protest, don't take your phone that identifies you. Don't take a driver's license. All right, there's 101, criminal 101.
Well, it's not even criminal 101. It's going to be citizenship 101 before it's due.
I like the hair to soften them out.
Pro tip for girls getting married. Don't do the up hair.
Don't tell people how to live their lives.
I'm telling you, don't do the up hair.
If you're getting married to Ryan, as some of you probably have dreamed of,
anyway,
don't do the up hair.
Facebook is going to join all the chats together. That's probably a good move. I don't know.
I'd say this probably goes in the U.S. as well, but...
Pro parenting tip. When your children are swimming or doing other activities that could lead to death, maybe pay attention to them. Maybe stop texting for 10 minutes. Or ever how long it takes for them to finish their swim.
Well, here's the thing, though. I mean, say you are just texting someone, like you're texting your spouse, like, hey, what do you want for dinner? And
tip, Amazon does not give out $1,000 gift cards. Ever. Just doesn't happen. Don't fall for it.
But what if this one time it was true for me?
No.
What if?
Definitely, they're never going to do it. They don't need to. Jeff Bezos would shoot himself in the foot before he gave you a $1,000 gift card for free. I get any Bitcoins.
They didn't.
Now here, pro criminal tips. Everybody loves it when we do pro criminal tips. They did not clear the entire building. They rushed in and they attacked the guys in the front desk, but they didn't clear the offices. And there was a guy in one of the offices and he called the cops. If you're going to storm a building and armed robbery, you got to clear the whole building.
It's like video game.
Pro tip, don't take that job. Jesus. Get a different job. We talked about this before. Do you think there's some personality type that could just breeze through this and not even care? I mean, they're probably running companies, right?
Yeah. They don't need the job. They're the people.
$.
So it's like, you know how we always have pro tips? Here's your corporate lawyer pro tip. Phone up the guy as a corporate lawyer for Nintendo and say, hey, this is cool what you've done, but we need to dot some I's and cross some T's from a legal standpoint. I'm going to take an hour out of my day and I'm going to bill Nintendo $1,000 or whatever my hourly rate is. And we're going to give you a license for this.
You consume it in your research.
Well, and it has sources.
Yeah.
Pro tip, when you're writing a research paper and you want to cite Wikipedia, but you don't really want to, just go down to the sources and list those instead.
Yeah, I don't...
It's a little shady, but...
little shady.
But then, see, the red flag is going to come, Krista, when every student has the same sources.
Pro tip, no space on the internet is safe.
Krista, I think you should become a helicopter photographer.
I don't think I'm qualified for that in any capacity.
Well, you just get in a helicopter and take pictures. I think, why not? There's money in it, but there's also a risk.
Texas can steal your photo.
Those of you who are Christmas oriented, pro Aspie tip, now's the time to order things.
Because otherwise it's probably not going to get there.
Because I know you're not going to go to a store, right?
Yeah.
Man, I've been going to the store a lot recently because of the new house, and it is just infuriating. I can't stand those crowds. It's insane. I still don't understand where another pro Aspie tip, order Christmas presents. That's going to happen very soon.
Sooner than you realize.
You don't want to get hit with those overnight charges for shipping. And remember that you should purchase. Now listen, I'm not saying it makes any sense. I'm not saying that it's not a ridiculous corporate holiday, but just
They really do.
Yeah.
They really do smell edible.
So yeah, just pro tip if you're running a store, maybe the laundry aisle and any kind of food aisle should be separated. You know what? Put the dog food between those two. A lot of people do that.
Yeah.
You'll get like food, pet food, and then chemicals.
That's a sort of spectrum of edible things.
Yeah. And the officer's a woman.
Wow.
Yeah.
What a tangled web we weave
That's
here
going
at
to be a
Level
good
1
movie.
Techs.
Yeah. So pro tip, if you're on Facebook, and of course we always have to say you shouldn't be on Facebook, but if some of you you must do it. So double check that private public switch. I don't know. Is it a checkbox of these kids?
Yeah.
So
Pro tip, don't like monitor your kids enough to make sure that they're not terrible people.
well, the one guy they talked to here, he was like, I would play with my son. I'd be like, look, son, we're both going to be defaults because it doesn't matter. And he was just like, Dad, you don't get it. You are a default, and I don't want to be one.
That's really horrifying.
That is horrifying. Speaking of shoddy implementation, here's a pro tip if you operate a gas station. When you install new pumps, they have these pins, the security for, like the software where you update the pumps. You should change the pins.
French gas stations have been robbed after forgetting to change the gas station pump pins. So the pumps have a little remote for doing things like maintenance, and it's like, we're going to put it in. It still works.
Pro relationship tip. If your friends do this to you, they're not your friends.
Well, he took it to the police, and he's like, I've been robbed. And the police pretty quickly figured out it was his roommates.
And they gave it back. I love how whenever we see these Chinese embezzlement or thefts or whatever, they never spend the money. They always have it to give back.